Hello and welcome to Piano Shack with me, Woody. Thank you so much for tuning in. Well, I hope you saw my previous video entitled Woody Synthesizer Evolution, all about the synthesizers that have meant the most to me during the last 40 years or so. And a bit of a spoiler alert, the first synthesizer that I was introduced to was the KORG MS-20 way back in 1979 or 1980 when my father bought one for the family. Now, as a very small child, I did know my way around it and I could dial up some basic sounds. But the real fun thing to do was to look at the manual where there were some patch diagrams. You see, the MS-20 doesn't have presets. It's an ancient old mono synth with just a lot of control knobs on the front, which is a wonderful thing in itself. But what you did to call up sounds was look at the manual, and there were some diagrams showing the front panel and all of the positions of the knobs and where you plug the cables into the patch bay. So I'd look through those and then try and replicate it on the KORG to pull up some interesting sounds. There were things like oboes, flutes, even an electric piano I remember, which is a bit ambitious for a mono synth, but it was there. But the patches that I had the most fun with, me and my friends and my sister, were the sound effects. They were things like sirens, waves, laser guns, and the one I remember the most is the dive bomb, where you'd get like a whistling noise and then you'd press the button on the KORG and it would explode. Quite an incredible sound at the time. And remember, this was 1980 when no one had really seen a synthesizer, and all of these synthesized sound effects were actually pretty popular. I remember my father having records just with weird sound effects, noises created by synthesizers. So this was all really good fun to program and play. Now, we still have the MS-20 in the family, but it's been in its box in the back of my father's wardrobe for about 35 years without ever being used, and now we are a bit afraid to switch it on in case some of the capacitors have leaked in the power supply, for example, which could damage the circuit board. So it might well remain there for a few more years to come. I'm not sure what we're going to do with it. The same goes for the Juno 6 as well, by the way, and the drum machine that I talked about. But anyway, yeah, we were talking about this over on our Discord community, and I was chatting to a gentleman called Clemens, who has an MS-20, and he'd seen the video, and he offered to make the dive bombing patch for me and a few more little surprises, and he made a video about it, which I'm going to share with you now. So here is the famous and quite remarkable dive bombing patch on the MS-20, and just check out some of the other synthesizers in Clemens' collection. It's pretty amazing, and this guy really knows how to use them as well. A little bit more about that after his video. Here we go.
Hey everyone, Clemens here. I was watching Woody's most recent video about his personal synthesizer history, and I especially loved the part about his dad buying them an MS-20 back in the day to experiment with. And Woody then talked about recreating patches that were mentioned in the original owner's manual. And that got me thinking, because I have an MS-20, as you can see, but I've ever only used it on synth-based duties, both live and in the studio. So I thought it would be fun to recreate some of those patches mentioned in the original owner's manual, both for me to experiment more with my MS-20 and for Woody to relive his childhood memories. So let's see what we can do. Okay, this is the patch that Woody was talking about in his video. This one is called Dive Bombing. The patch notes tell you to press the highest key, then press the button and let go of the button when you hear the explosion sound. So what actually happens is that as soon as you press the button, the envelope generators get triggered. Those modulate the frequency of the oscillators, creating the sound. And the actual explosion part is created by the noise generator, which is overloaded, as you can see, by this peak light, through the external signal processor and fed back into the mixer. So let's hear how it sounds. This next patch is called Police Siren, for obvious reasons. It's quite a simple patch. It doesn't even use the patch bay. It does use both the oscillators that are slightly detuned from each other, and it uses the modulation generator to create a typical siren sound. It's set to a sawtooth wave And yeah, let's have a listen. Let's see what happens if we turn one of the oscillators off and bring it back in. For this last example, I recreated this patch called Storm, and I'm amazed at how realistic it sounds. It's unbelievable. Okay, what actually happens is that the first oscillator generates noise. The second oscillator is set to a narrow pulse, but it's being modulated by white noise in the patch bay. So that actually creates two layers of noise. Let's listen. This is the first oscillator. And I'll slowly add the second one. You can actually control the intensity with the modulation wheel. And you can press the button for thunder. Listen to this. Absolutely amazing. Very, very cool.
Wow, how awesome was that? I can tell you, I had a huge grin on my face when I watched that for the very first time. So thank you so much, Clemens. I know my father will appreciate it as well. So yeah, thanks again. And of course, a big thank you to my mum and dad who bought the synthesizer that sparked my interest in this hobby all those years ago. It must have been quite an expensive instrument back then. So yeah, thanks a lot. And 40 years later, here I am on my YouTube channel working with brands like KORG again, Yamaha and Roland, making all these videos for thousands of viewers. It's pretty incredible what this has all led to.
Hard against this mountainside.
Clemens is a professional touring musician, but obviously not so much going on in recent times, so he's been focusing on his YouTube channel.
Setting my feet upon the road. My heart is all that holds my memory.
And I'm guessing you're probably not getting out to gigs so often either, so why not do yourself a favour and go check out his performances on his own YouTube channel. His cover versions are simply amazing, and wow, what a voice. So that's it then. I hope you enjoyed this little walk down memory lane as much as I did. I'll see you again next time. Cheerio.
When I was young, I thought of